Hello, everybody, and welcome to Stammer Run with me, John. I hope everyone is well on this Tuesday. Hope you've recovered from your events and your runs. It'd be really cool to know actually if you've done any events, if you've run any PBs, anything that you've done over the last week, and anything you've got planned this week. So, as the thumbnail says, in the content that I've made over the last 2 to 3 days. We're going to be looking at, there's a shoe behind me called the PUMA Fast RB. Now, I've been quite critical of this shoe. I'm going to do some more content that I run a 10 mile in this shoe. I've planned to do 13 miles in this PUMA shoe, but I just found it really, really hard. So I managed to get to 10 miles in the shoe. So we're going to be looking at the shoe today. Feel free to bring anything up that you want to talk about, and we can try to speak about some stuff today. Also, there's something interesting that I've been hearing on threads. I didn't know that this was a thing. This is to do with a marathon, but people using that in terms of context of 5 and 10K. I just thought it'd just be quite interesting to get your opinions and points of view on people not naming a race correctly, because it really seems to bother a lot of people. So let's just get on with it. So PUMA have come out with this Fast RB, which is apparently to break the rules. And I bought the shoe, so the shoe wasn't sent to me, and that's one of the key points to which I've kind of been saying along the way. And I think this is an important point when talking about shoes. So again, I bought the shoe. The shoe was £300. So this is the most expensive shoe that I own, that I bought, and which allows me to be totally honest about the shoe. So comment the fact that I've been sent this shoe. For some people, that may be here nor there. But I think that's an important point, because I think that what buying shoes allows me to do, don't get me wrong, if anyone wants to send me some shoes, then that's fine with me. But just to be aware that I'm always going to be honest about a shoe. So I think this one in particular, the fact that it's £300, it's a limited run shoe of only 1,000 pairs for now. So I do have my thoughts on that and why that is. And yeah, so it's an interesting shoe, come out of the box, and it does look good. So I'll definitely concede to the fact that it does look good. However, I think the styling and the kind of look of the shoe is a little bit Alpha Fly, which is just here. So we have our Alpha Fly, which came out 3 to 4 years ago, and this PUMA RB. So a very similar shoe. So when I think about comparing these shoes, I do think about the Alpha Fly, and I also think about the Mizuno Rebellion Pro, on the basis that so this is another shoe that kind of tried to break the mold, and I think it's a very interesting point as to what they tried to do with this shoe. So kind of some of the stats of the shoe is a 56 mil stack shoe, 56 46 mil in the shoe. So you have this new Nitro Elite foam. You have 3 plates. So you have one carbon plate that runs through, same as any kind of like other shoe, and then you have these kind of 2 kind of Carbonex type plates, but TPU plastic. Sandwiched in between those are these pods. So these are foam pods. So these are not like Alpha Fly typical pods. These are literally just like foam pods. So the same Elite foam that is throughout the shoe. So 56 mil stack shoe. And I think what PUMA have done really well is, for a 56 mil stack shoe, it doesn't actually feel that high. Now, I think the reasoning for that is because of the compression and the squash of the foam in these pods. So these kind of pods, what they're supposed to do is you're supposed to be able to compress them, and then they spring you forward, and that's the same with these plates in this shoe. So in terms of foam, in terms of the combination and kind of the technology, we can talk about that, and I think that that's a different point. So when we get to this upper, this is a kind of one mesh upper. It's not a mesh. This upper reminds me of a carpet. The idea is, I guess, you slip in your foot, and it's supposed to be a comfortable one kind of piece upper. Now, my experience of this upper is that it feels very, very loose, and it doesn't really hug the foot. This is too loose. The material up top, I don't think is right. I think it's too thick for what it's trying to do. I don't know what it's trying to do. I'll explain to you where I think it kind of lives in conjunction with the kind of other PUMA stuff. It hugs well to the forefoot, to the midfoot of the shoe. This is kind of where you want to be in the shoe. Now, what I found personally is that when you have sunk into the shoe, it's fine. You still feel loose in the heel counter there. And when you kind of ease back off of the pace, you can really feel how loose this upper is. So I'm going to stick to this, and I'm going to say this. Your opinions may not be the same as mine, but I think this is probably one of the worst uppers on a shoe, on the basis that there's so many good uppers out there, even that Puma do, that are better than this. And I kind of wish they'd have applied those uppers instead of trying to be clever. I don't really know what this is. It's not very good. So for £300, initially, do I think that this is a good shoe? No, and I'll kind of go through the points as to why I don't think this is a good shoe. So to come back to the point whereby it makes a difference between, I think, when shoes are sent to a person and not, as much as people will be honest to a degree, and I don't think anybody is not. I just think that, particularly with these kind of shoes, you're basically trying to protect how you are with a brand. And a lot of what I've seen on these shoes from people, fantastic, and their opinion counts, and that's great. But I think the problem is, and what I've heard is that this is a fun shoe. Okay, this has been described as a sort of a fun, bouncy shoe that's really quite good. It's a bit heavy, but it's still a fun ride shoe. So, do I think it's a fun shoe? It depends on your objection about fun, right? So, some people like pain. I don't particularly enjoy pain, and other people's fun, it's up to them. But to me, fun is something that you want to put your foot in, and this is just in terms of a shoe. Not I've got things with your feet or stuff like that, but with the shoe, in terms of shoes, you've got to want to run in this shoe. And for a £300 shoe, as much as I want to try to protect it, because ultimately I've paid for this shoe, I don't want to run in the shoe because I don't think it's particularly fun. So what I've seen of the shoe is that nobody's going to race properly in the shoe because it's banned. Okay, the midsole in the shoe is, while it's good, it doesn't feel different to a Wave Rebellion Pro. Doesn't feel different to the Vaporfly. And do you know what? In terms of best feeling shoes, I don't even think it's a patch on the Hoka Rocket X2, which is a really, in terms of how this shoe is kind of made, it's a carbon plate The upper on this is fantastic. This is a kind of upper that I would like to have seen on Puma. Carbon plate foam, and this is absolutely fantastic foam on this. So this is not trying to be a out there shoe. This is just kind of trying to be a really good race shoe. And this Hoka Rocket X2 for me is just a phenomenal shoe, and in fact, I think it's probably my best shoe of all time in terms of what I've managed to do in this particular shoe. So, with that in mind, let's talk about how this shoe feels on foot, and I think on foot where this shoe ultimately is or wants to be is I don't actually know, because there are shoes to me that can do everything. Okay, there are shoes that are specialized shoes. So your 10K shoes, you get your longer run shoes, and I just so for me, for £300, what I'm expecting for the shoe is at least to be able to go on a long run shoe, to be able to race in this shoe. Because for me, this is what this shoe should be about: is, you've got all this foam, and you should be able to take it out on a longer run and be able just to kind of enjoy the shoe. Now, this shoe is so heavy, so all the weight of this shoe is pretty much in this mid to the forefoot of this shoe. So what that means is that this shoe wants you to be like that. It doesn't want you to live here. Hence why, if you put the foot flat, you can't even touch the back of the shoe. So straight away, if you heel strike, then in my opinion, this shoe is definitely not for you. No matter what people say, yes, there is quite a lot of foam here, but if you think about it, this wants to get you up on your toes, and then you're kind of almost held back in this shoe. So it's just that, just from the kind of offset, it limits the amount of people that can use this shoe. So it wants to get you up on your toes, which is fine. So if you kind of live in the midfoot to the forefoot of the shoe, then you've kind of got a start for 10. But the problem with that is it's too heavy. Now, what it wants you to do is it wants you to be on your tiptoes, and it almost wants you to constantly be there. Now, it's so heavy that it doesn't feel comfortable. So imagine you're trying to run on your toes, but that's it. And that's where this wants to be. This is where it wants to be, on that sweet spot of the shoe is all out. It's absolutely flat, all out. And testament to that is the fact that this is a fast shoe. I did a PB of 15:59 in the shoe. That was like last week, and it was hard work. And I didn't necessarily enjoy the shoe, but the shoe is a fast shoe. But it's only fast to me for a 5 or a 10K. I'd probably struggle in this shoe to do a 10K at a fast pace, purely because it's so heavy. Now, I've just got normal size legs, normal size feet. So I really think that if you've got kind of quite big, thick feet and quite big legs, and actually I think if you're on the heavier side, I actually think you'd probably get on more with this shoe. So as long as you are heavier, you've got thicker feet, you run in the midfoot to the forefoot of the shoe, I actually think you'd get on really well with the shoes. I think that you need big legs. I don't have big legs. I've got strongest legs, but this is a titan of a shoe that requires like Arnie legs. I mean, this is quite a heavy shoe, but I still ran my quickest 5K time in the shoe. So in terms of a fast shoe, it's definitely there. Now, kind of slowing things down. So again, I took it out on a 13-mile run that ended up being a kind of 10-mile run. And the point of that was to kind of test it on an easy day run. So previously to the 5K PB, I then ran on the Sunday before that a 10K PB in the Hoka Rocket X2, which was a 35:12 24. So I wanted to see then, so my legs were tired, was that can I just kind of do an easy run in the shoe? So if I can do an easy long run in the shoe, then actually this can be used. If there's a nice comfortable ride just to ease in the legs, then again, it's expensive, but at least I can do something and make the shoe work for either really fast paces or a kind of easy plod chill run. Now, initially, as with the shoe, I will say about the shoe is that when you put it on your feet first of all and you start to plod along, it actually does feel nice, even though this upper just annoys the hell out of me, and I just think it's just awful, and it's just bad. You do kind of feel that kind of like really good pace, but very quickly that compression really feels. It just loses that pop, and I think it's a combination of these plates and these pods, because they're not really pods. So these pods on these shoes are just purely foam pods. Now, what the shoe does really well is when you're going at a faster pace or any pace in the shoe, the platform of the shoe is fantastic. I've never had such a high stack shoe that when you put your foot down and you hit it in the correct place, it actually doesn't feel like a 56mm stack shoe. It actually is very stable for a shoe of this size. And in fact, when you're trying to go around the corner, again, I think it's a very stable shoe. So what they've done here, I think they've done this extremely well. I think they have made a platform for the shoe. It's quite wide, which kind of explains why when you put your foot into the shoe, why this upper doesn't really hug, because your foot feels like it's everywhere. So the platform in the shoe is really, really good. But then maybe after like a mile, then it just starts to feel heavy. And now you've got almost that feeling of it's a super foam shoe, which it does feel nice, but then you then got that weight. So you then got that weight of the shoe that constantly slaps, and it does sound like a squeaky door as well. It's a really, really loud shoe. So the problem then that you've got is that when you put your foot down in the shoe, all the weight is here, and that energy that you get back from this foam is then changed because it's so heavy. So actually, it kind of then just ends up feeling a bit just like a meh shoe, it's just not a fun shoe. Now, I did 6 miles at that kind of pace. Well, for me, a kind of plod pace. So that's probably around the 6:55. Again, that's probably still too fast for this shoe. Sorry, it's still too fast for what I was trying to do. Now trying to do an easy run. So that should probably be about 7:30 to 8. And that's a proper just enjoying it, plodding along, not really thinking about, the pace, and just enjoying the shoe. But I was just really bored. At that pace in the shoe doesn't work at a slow pace because it's quite heavy. So you're constantly there when you kind of almost want to sit back a little bit. Now, when I'm tired or when I just kind of want an easy run, I kind of tend to then lean back into the midfoot of the shoe, not towards the heel, but kind of more so towards this midfoot striking the shoe. And this doesn't want to be there. It absolutely does not want to be in that midfoot range of that shoe. And I just find that even though the compression is there, when you heel strike, it's counterproductive of what I think this shoe is trying to do, but I don't actually know what the shoe is trying to do. So it doesn't feel good at a mid pace, doesn't feel good at a slow pace. The only place that it feels good is that very niche, really all out fast pace. So after the 6 miles that I did, I then upped the pace. And then, I started then to probably do an average 6:15 highest or quickest mile in that 4K run back was a 6:05, which negates what I was trying to do was a nice, easy, slow run. But I was just so bored. It's just so bored in the shoe at that really slow pace. Is how can I just get back? I wanted just to end the run to get back, but I wanted to get in the miles. So the quickest way for me to do that is to stick it at a high pace and try to get the run over as quick as possible. And then I got to 10 miles, and I just didn't want to run in it. I just thought the thought of another 3 miles kind of plod in the shoe was just not right. Now, also as well is the blisters that I now have. I'm not going to show you those. It's because of the way this upper is, and because you're constantly, it's so warm and your foot doesn't stay still, you can just really feel that rub in the shoe. And this shoe also is going to give you a blister. Now, it's not going to give you one on your heel because this doesn't form right on your shoe. It doesn't fit quite right, and I'm not sure if that's a combination of this upper being too loose or being the wrong kind of upper. This shoe needs a lace on it. I think if it had a lace on the shoes kind of here, I think that would help, but it's still not going to kind of excuse this bit. And because your foot is pushed down into the shoe, you almost will kind of have that excess bit at the back there. So it's just, for me, it's just a very disappointing shoe. And I think at £300, right, somebody at Puma must have gone. So I can just imagine this conversation that they had. So I reckon you kind of like have these guys there who are the experts who came up with the sort of with the Puma. So this is the elite number one, right? So you have the kind of like the proper guys, the tech guys go, look, guys, this is what I think we should make a shoe at, and this elite. And again, Puma, I love their shoes. That's the most frustrating thing, right? Is that I love the Puma brand of shoes up until now. So the elite number one, this is that sleeper shoe. The upper is fantastic on the shoe. It's really light. I mean, this shoe is, I think it's like a 6-ounce shoe. The foam, this elite foam in here is fantastic. The implementation of the plate in the shoe, this grip is great. This is just a really fun shoe that can do easy days, fast days, and the stack in the shoe is not high, but it's just such a good shoe. So I think after this shoe, what's then happened is one of the execs has gone, I think we should do something really crazy, and they've gone, right, let's stick a carbon plate outside of the shoe. Let's put a big massive pod of foam there, this pod of foam at the back, so you can see this exposed plate. And they started to kind of have a bit of an input, and the kind of the bods at Puma were like, I'm not really sure, but because they've got the power, they kind of was just like, yeah, okay, fine. And this shoe works. This is the Faststar 1. The Faststar 2 is really, really good. But again, I really enjoy the shoe. This is an interesting shoe. This is a fast shoe, but this is that kind of, again, when this comes out, like £200. But if I'd have got this shoe, I can see what they're trying to do with the shoe. The foam in this is really, really good. I like the Faststar. I think this is the 5 to 10k shoe. The number one is, so I think it would have been an expensive 5 to 10k shoe. The upper on this is fantastic. The heel counter is great. So this upper is kind of what I kind of almost expect is that this does hug the foot in the shoe. So this is a really, really good shoe. And actually, I like it because they only paid £64 for it as well. So, £200, yeah, fine. It's a concept, but it actually works. So this shoe really, really works. It's an interesting, fast shoe, and I like the shoe now. Then I think because of the success of that, somebody's gone, right, what can we do? I want 3 plates. I want this big stack height. I want a really big foam. And I think the people that kind of come up with these shoes must have been staring at each other and thinking, like, who's going to say no? And someone's just like, no, like we can't say no because he's the boss, or they're the boss. So this kind of almost feels like an exec has kind of had his way on the shoe. And then I want 3 plates in the shoe. I want it to fly. I want it to do all kinds of stuff. And they're like, right, okay, let's just scale that back a little bit. I want a super high stack shoe because I want it to bounce. I want this, and they've almost gone, okay, let's kind of scale that back. Let's just create a kind of shoe where you can have those things, but so this doesn't feel like a shoe that was made by people who have this mindset and they want to bring the best shoe there, because somebody must have put their foot in this shoe and gone, yeah, that's great. For £300, they must have put this foot in the shoe and they've gone, he or she, and they've gone, yeah, this is it. Even if it's a concept shoe, this is a great shoe. Send it out to people. I just don't know why they've sent it out with this upper. So that allows my kind of next point with the shoe. So I think this is almost a Puma have gone, well, let's hand out 1,000 of these, or there's 1,000 out there. Okay. So I initially wanted to think that they wanted to test the market of the shoe to see how the shoe would do. Hence why I've seen a lot of things out there. It's a comfortable, fun shoe, but it's heavy, blah, 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 blah. Now, the fallback for me is that, this is just a concept shoe. This is them being fun. Hardy Heart, almost like this is a running shoe. This is what they brought it as. If Puma had said no, this is a concept shoe designed for collectors of shoes, and if you want to collect shoes, you can run it in the shoe if you wish, but you need to think that this is only a concept shoe. It's only really for say maybe fans or people that want to see the technology that we're going to bring. This is this. You could openly buy this shoe. I just happened to get this from Start Fitness, and they just kind of had the shoe there. There's nothing on them. They just sell the shoes. Nothing that they can actually do about that. So they sell the shoe. You can buy the shoe. So it's a running shoe. Now it almost feels like the get out of Joe Free card for Puma. This is a fun shoe. This is not meant to be raced. This is a concept, but it's a concept that brought out to the market, causing people to rush out to buy the shoe. Now, the difference between this and the Adizero Evo, that was £400 in the shoe. At least that shoe could be used in a race. I've seen a lot with that shoe that it doesn't last long at all. 100 miles to 200 miles for 400 quid. Now, at least with that, I think that they're being honest with that Adios Pro Evo, is that they're basically, you can buy it, but they're not trying to hide the fact that you can only run maybe 100 to 200 miles in it. And there's a reason why you can't pick it up, because it's not necessarily designed for the average runner. It's designed for faster runners. Okay, but this shoe, you can't run in this shoe. You can't run a legitimate race in the shoe. So an athlete is not going to use the shoe. So basically, this is a £300 fun shoe, but it's not fun. And most people will not be able to run in this shoe because it's so heavy. It runs in this forefoot to the midfoot of the shoe. Its upper is, quite frankly, the worst upper that I've seen. I mean, just comparing it to the Wave Rebellion Pro. Now the upper on this, I'm not the biggest fan of the upper on this because of the tongue kind of tends to not kind of like hold its place. But the upper is still light. It does feel like a little bit of a cheap upper on this one, but it's thin. It does what it's supposed to do. It locks you into the shoe, and actually, it's not that bad. Now, the reason why I kind of bring this in as well, because this is quite a high stack shoe. I think this is like 46 mil. In fact, it might even be a 50 mil shoe. But the reason why you can get away with calling this this is a legal shoe is because it has to come 3/4 of the way. So as long as it's not 50 odd mil here, then you're perfectly fine. So when you're looking at both of these shoes, they're very similar shoes. They're trying to do something out there, and I think that at the time, this was a very really high stack shoes with but at its core, it's still a foam-based wave plate, but still a carbon-plated shoe. It's just got one carbon plate, and the weight is equal across the shoe. So when we're talking about trying to be different, this is a good example whereby I just don't think they're doing it for difference sake. There is method behind what it is they're trying to do with the shoe, and to certain degrees, for me, I ran my fastest kind of half marathon in the shoe. This is a very, very good fast shoe, but I just don't know what they're trying to do with the shoe. It's a very divisive shoe, in my opinion. And I'm not trying to, it's in my interest to like the shoe, right? It's in my interest to say to Puma, this is a great shoe. This is an amazing shoe. You've done an amazing job. Great. I don't think they have. I think they've missed a beat on the shoe. Puma as a brand and as their shoes, this is not about that. I think Puma have done some brilliant shoes, and I've bought over the last 2-3 years. I've bought 5 or 6 pairs of their shoes, and they're fantastic. They're so good. The uppers, the technology are fantastic. But they want you to then pay £300 for the shoe. Now, I wouldn't have an issue if it come out as a concept shoe. If this was a concept shoe, and that's what they said, and that's what the thought behind the shoe is that actually, look, this is kind of like a concept car, okay, where you see these cars and you can't really buy them as such. Well, you probably can, but you can only buy the odd thing here and there. Kind of done something similar with these, with like 1,000 of them, but they've also kind of sent some to people to go, yeah, this is a kind of goodish shoe. But then people like me managed to get their hands on the shoe, and I've got nothing to lose. I spent £300 in the shoe, so you don't have to. And I will not say something is good or bad unless it's my own opinion on this shoe. And in my opinion, I genuinely wouldn't pick up the shoe because ordinary people work really hard for their cash. We don't get sent shoes, and for you to go out there and spend £300 on this, there's so many better shoes for you to spend your £300 on. Then I would, you could get 3 pairs, at least 2 pairs for £300. So I think this one is definitely one to miss. Now, I also got a comment that I wanted to address, which I have. Is somebody said that, how do you know what a shoe feels like after a 6-mile run? Now, I'm running lots and lots of shoes, and some shoes do. Now, when I pay 300 quid for a shoe, I expect to be able to put my foot in that shoe and be able to do what the thing says that I can do in the shoe. At £300, £200, £180. Shoes are not cheap. Now, to be fair to this shoe as well, like all the others, I was able to put my foot into the other shoes, and I mean that pretty much 99% of every other carbon plated super shoe, whether or not I've thought it was good or not, I've been able to put my foot in that shoe and be able to run. I bought that the Hoka Rocket X2, for example. Put my foot in that shoe straight away, absolutely fine. Wave Rebellion Pro, the RC Elite number 2, even to the fact I've got this mount close behind me. Now, this is not necessarily a super shoe, right? So this shoe was sent to me, and again, when this was sent to me, on the premise that I'm going to say what I want to say about the shoe. This is a kind of PUMA base, so the foam in this shoe is very, very good, and it's not got a plate; it's got like a wing plate. It's a stability shoe. I was able to put my foot in the shoe, and it's around about £150, I think. Able to put my foot straight into the shoe and run and do exactly what it said. And I'm talking about every other single super shoe, being able to put my foot in that shoe, and after 3 miles, even after 6, I'm able to tell straight away how good the shoe is. So what's the difference with this shoe? This is a £300 shoe. I expect this shoe to make me dinner. I'm expecting this shoe to walk me. I'm expecting the shoe to make me have like PBs. I'm expecting the shoe to do absolutely every single thing, because this is probably the second most expensive shoe of all time in terms of the commercial shoe, and I'm expecting this shoe to be able to do all that. But for £300, it can't. So I'm supposed to pay £300 for a concept shoe and then be able to bed in the concept shoe, and I'm not prepared. So, and also the fact some other shoes I've been injured or I've not felt quite right. With this shoe, I'm peaking as well. I'm running PBs. I feel really, really, really good, and yet I still need to bed in this shoe. Absolutely not. This is a £300 shoe. If you pay £300 for a shoe, or if you pay, let's just say you paid £50,000 for a car, you're gonna wait for I don't know, a month or something for the car to bed in, and for it to feel great. No, when you get in that car, you expect it to do what it says on the tin straight away. So if this was like £150, fine. Perhaps maybe again, even then at £150, because again, that's not cheap. I'm expecting it to do something, and it doesn't. It's just not something that it does. So I'm just really disappointed in this shoe, expecting a lot more things in the shoe. It's got 3 plates, for God's sake, in the shoe. It's got big stack, big plates, and it's not that it feels bad, but when you combine it just feels like just like every other carbon plated shoe. It's heavier than every other carbon plated shoe. It's a niche carbon plated shoe because you can only do certain things in this carbon plated shoe. The upper is dreadful, and I'm never going to go back on that. That upper is dreadful, and it's £300. So I urge you to save your £300 and to spend it on something else. So that's actually done with. So the other thing I wanted to talk about and get your opinions on. So people who kind of have this new term for a marathon. Okay, so they prefix it with a 5K marathon or a 10K marathon. So sometimes I get lost on threads, which is something that I kind of shouldn't really do. But a lot of people tend to kind of really feel like they're hurt when people refer to the 5K as that. Now, I'd be interested to know how how much that impacts your life. I mean, I know, a lot of people really care about space. I mean, I care about the space, but you can call it, in my opinion, a 5 to 10K. You could call it whatever you like. You could call it an ultra marathon. I really couldn't care less. But people really seem to be, they really seem to care about what people call things, and I just don't really see the point why people kind of hate on that. So, it's a case of people are hating on what things cause. Now, is that because they're insecure about the thing that they've done? I mean, I've run a lot of stuff, but there are people who are faster than me. I'm faster than some, you know, and I don't care. I run 5 and 10Ks all the time. I've run some good times. I've done an 100K, right? I've done a few of those, and I I personally just couldn't care less. So I guess what for me I'm trying to understand is that why do people care so much about what something is called? Is it because it's like you devalue what you've done, or that's what you feel, as if you feel because you run 42K, or because you run like 100K, you think that's more impressive than somebody who's run 5 to 10K? I don't know. It's just something that I am interested to understand, why people get so obsessed, and why people kind of are quite toxic about why, if you call something not what it is, does it really matter? I just be quite interested in that point. So something else I wanted to bring into the live discussion about the PUMA RB. So I do think the PUMA RB is quite a divisive shoe. I think there's not a lot of pairs out there, so I think it's very difficult for people to make up their mind, because there isn't a lot of pairs out there for people to try. I mean, I wish I could give mine away. Maybe I will. I don't know, for other people to try. I'm going to say, if it's something that you want to try, and you can send me an email as to why you think you should have my £300 shoes, let me know, because I'm probably not going to do a lot else with the shoes, because there's nothing else I can do with them. To me, they're going to be an expensive something is going to basically sit on the shelf. So, but again, I'd love to understand who you are. Just comment on channel. Let me know what your feelings are about super shoes. Are they becoming too expensive? And just your opinions all around. So, on that note, that's my rant over about the PUMA RB. It's 300 quid, £300 down the drain, but it is what it is, isn't it? So thank you for being there, for the people that watched, and yeah, I'm sure I will see you again. Have a good day, and I'll see you on the next one. Take care.